You want to talk about it? I'd rather laugh about it. Let's get a little dark about it. On the Traumedy Show.
Welcome to the Traumedy Show. I'm your co-host, Rachel Wilford.
And I'm your other co-host, Megan Wilford.
And today we have with us Emily Rose. She is the co-founder and CEO of the Mama Wilder Foundation, a nonprofit organization that allocates cash grants to women facing domestic violence, financial hardship, and single motherhood. And Emily is also a mother of 3 and an advocate for women's health, holistic health, home birth, and the political revolution. So welcome.
I saw that in your Instagram bio. I was like, yeah. I know Megan kind of crushed it with the little guy.
Which that.
I got it on your website.
Love that.
You can also find her on Instagram at mama_Wilder and the Mama Wilder nonprofit on social, where 100% of her monetization from those social media pages go towards her nonprofit, which we are going to talk about later as well. So basically, we've got a badass right here.
Yeah. I was
You're like, wow, thanks for making me sound so cool.
Is this AI? I'm like, who did that? ChatGPT.
All right. Well, okay, the first paragraph was straight from your website.
Why did you pull that from my website? Because I just redid it like a couple days ago.
I did today.
Great.
I was like your little bio. There was a couple things in your bio I like copy and paste it and sent it to Rachel, and I was like, I have chills like reading some of this, like just introduction.
That's
like,
so funny you bring that up, because I really did just redo it like 2 nights ago, and I was like, no one's gonna read this. Like nobody's gonna like. This is gonna be something like a lawyer is gonna look up and be like, oh, she's not that bad.
well, color is the gratification.
Totally.
Now, all of our listeners are going to go read your bio specifically.
That's so funny.
I wanted one other thing in your bio that I just have to shout out, because that's the part that really gave me chills. When you wrote, I credit my positive birth experiences with propelling me through some of the worst traumas a person can live through, because birth is the closest thing I've ever felt to feeling the presence of God.
I can't believe you actually pointed that out, because I thought that people would be so put off by that.
No, let's go through your bio line by line and just validate everything that you wrote. I always like so good. We loved it.
Well, thank you for pointing it out. I didn't think anyone would read that. I really didn't. I was like, this is going to be just a lawyer reading this, or like my judge. So like, no, that means a lot. Thank you.
We're 3 minutes in and we're already thinking it's never created a podcast. Oh, that's so sweet. It's how we do it on the Traumedy Show. It's something, we have a lot of mothers who have been guests on the podcast, who are listeners of the podcast. Rachel and I we don't have children of our own, but it's something that we both want to be mothers one day. And like, we're both with partners who we really love right now. So it's something that like is on my mind. I feel like my FYP right now is just like babies, dogs. But I love hearing stories like that and having like just this general community of empowered women. And I saw that you wrote sovereign motherhood, which I thought was like a really beautiful just phrase. And I was very captivated by it. So
that's like the whole mantra, like moms for anarchy. Like my little girls today, because they put on my hats. Yeah. They have these they wore them all over the grocery store. They were all over Sprouts with moms for anarchy hats on. And they were like, what does this even mean? And I'm like, of course, in my mind, it's sovereign motherhood. It's just like mothering without being told how to mother. And that's like, what that means. It's just like a more vulgar way of saying it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm for anarchy. And really, it just means like, you can't tell me how to be a mom. It's not, it's just like catchphrase.
I love it. Well, okay. What a sweet little intro start. Let's make you cry more.
This is supposed to be fun. I'm just kidding.
I am known on the podcast. I mean, Rachel and I are both emotional, but I'm the crier. Like, I'm the Pisces. I cry every other episode at least, and it's always when did Megan last cry? So
I think people probably wouldn't expect this, but I cry all the time. Like I cry I cry all the time. But happy cry. In fact, my daughter last night, she's 6.5. She goes, I've never actually seen you cry when you're sad. I always see you happy cry. And I'm like, oh, well then I'm doing a great job hiding it. Yeah. But also it was just so sweet for her to notice. And I'm thinking, dude, where have you been? Like, this is terrible. Kids.
Really sweet though.
I know. It was really sweet.
Yeah. Because crying is such a
staring at me.
It can really be such a release. Like I'm a huge happy crier too.
Me too. I cry all the time.
Yeah.
Happy. Yeah. I'm always like,
I cry pretty much as a response to any emotion.
And I have no water signs in my chart. Like I am Virgo, Aries, Virgo. So
okay,
I shouldn't be so happy.
My boyfriend is a Virgo, which is like the soulmate sign for Pisces. Yeah, I am, but he also cries at everything too. And like I think it is like it's secretly a very emotional sign.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, my husband. Yeah.
Okay, Emily. Well, I know you have a story to share. So we would love to hear just kind of from the beginning of, I know that I don't want to spoil anything. So actually, I'm going to let you just go into it.
Yeah, I always like to point out that, my experience as a single mom brought me through poverty. Like I entered poverty as a single parent. And that was so new for me because I grew up in a really well-to-do family. Like I attended private schools and I lived in Andover, Massachusetts. I lived in Birmingham, Michigan. Like the zip codes I was living in were so wealthy. And my family everyone has at least a bachelor's degree. Like my cousin just got her doctorate in veterinary medicine like 3 days ago. And I always felt like the black sheep because I ended up having a baby at 22 and I didn't even have my degree yet. And so there was a lot of like shame wrapped up in that. And I quickly married someone that I had no idea. Actually, I went viral for this a few years ago, sharing this story, and like 9 million people saw it on TikTok, and I actually lost my TikTok sharing this story because they wouldn't let me log in anymore. But I found out by mistake that the person I married grew up in the Children of God, the cult. I don't know if you're like into cults at all. But it's one of the most well-known.
That's not the one Jacob was in, was it?
No, we had one of our best friend's husbands was in a cult and he came on and talked about it. So
talked all about it. Yeah.
I don't think it's the same one.
This one, it was such a weird flip because I was pregnant and I didn't know it at the time, but of course I was trying to leave him and then I got pregnant. And I didn't realize he had just received a notice from immigration because he was an immigrant telling him that his visa had been denied. His application had been denied. And I all of a sudden got pregnant. And And so I actually gave birth 42 weeks to the day after he got that letter. So it was like, so I had no idea really what was going on. He was quite a bit older. And I was watching Netflix one day in bed. I was pregnant, and this documentary about the Children of God came on, and I just got a little into it. I was like, "This is so cool." I'm gonna Google and see what you ever like Wikipedia stuff as you're watching like a real true crime or something. And I looked up this group, and they're like, "Well, it changed names. It changed the name to the Family International." I was like, "Oh, I wonder if it's still around." I'm not joking. I typed it into Facebook, and it said you have 35 friends who like this page. And I'm like, what? And it was all my in-laws and his friends and people he grew up with. And I'm like, oh no, oh my God. And I didn't know, no one told me that. Like we were living together. I had my 2-year-old with me. He never told me this. And I remember I asked him, I said, can you come in here? Like, do you see this? Are you familiar with this group? And he's like, turn that off. It's stupid. You're paranoid. So I walked down the street the next day to his sister's house, and I said,
sorry, Emily, how did you meet him initially?
On an app in the mountains of Colorado. Yeah.
Okay.
He was the first person I dated, and we met in a town.
Dated ever?
No, after I had my baby. As a single parent. He was my first person I dated. Okay. So I was a single mom at 22. Like the love of my life dumped me when I was pregnant. And it was awful.
That's the first drama. Holy shit.
That was
the first. Wasn't the father. I see.
No, he wasn't the dad. So let me back up. So I had a baby in college when I was in college. I was 21, 22 years old. I moved out to Colorado because I wanted to raise my kids out here. I liked the landscape. I was like, I wanted to get away from my crazy mom. Like I wanted to move to Colorado. And I met him within like a month and didn't date anyone else. And I was really just so afraid of being alone. And like, there's a lot of family stuff. Like a lot of inherited shame around being a single mother. And so I quickly got with this person who I thought just tolerated my baggage. Like I didn't.
Did you grow up religious?
No, you would think. No, I didn't. But I grew up in a very patriarchal family with a lot of inherited coercive control issues, like financial abuse. And my mother was financially abused. Like my mother and her parents were super toxic. And that just translated, into her relationship with me. But so I was in a really vulnerable spot financially, socially. And I met this guy who was older, totally hid everything from me. And his family was in on it. And once I got out of it, years later, I realized that's just how they raised these kids in this cult to inherently distrust people who are outsiders like me, and to lie about everything, fabricate everything. He fabricated a military history. I mean, he committed to the he had a military insignia on his arm, a forearm tattoo. He and his sisters were in on it. Like, I really was none the wiser. And because he was an immigrant, there was no way for me to pull like military records in the US. Like, I lived in Oceanside, I mentioned. My father's military. So that would have been accessible to me, that information, had it been an American. But because he was foreign, there was no way for me to know. So I called him in and I said, this cult, he pretended like he knew nothing about it. So then I asked his sister, I said, hey, can you tell me what the hell's going on? She goes, oh, he didn't tell you that? I'm like, oh, no, you forgot to mention that you guys were raised in this group. And so I gave birth maybe 6 months later. And he became
your second child, but your first child together.
First together, our only one together. Yeah. And at that point, he had admitted he needed my family to sponsor his green card. And I was like, I thought that you took care of all that.
Despicable.
I was like, I thought you took care of all that. And he was like, you need to take care of it because it's your family. They have the money. Like, it was very much, in hindsight, I'm like, oh my God, this is so textbook. Like, this was like a con job. And
do you mind if I ask where he immigrated from?
Italy. He was Italian.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were there a lot of immigrants in the cult? Was that?
So here's the other thing. And I became like an expert on this group because I'm like, oh, I have to understand everything. This family has American accents, which is kind of a weird thing for an Italian immigrant. They don't speak like they have Italian accents. The family was from Italy, but they grew up in Ukraine. Some sisters lived in Hungary. Like the group, the Family International, TFI is what they call it. They moved these families all around the world. And if you research it, like they changed their name because it was so well known and associated with child sexual abuse. And
oh no.
Yeah. And I connected with people who knew the family, grew up around that, and confirmed some suspicions like, this is so much worse than I knew. I was totally lied to. I had no idea. And I remember I filed for divorce the first time less than a year after we were married because I was like, I got to get out of this. And it was just so, if you, on paper, we were married a very short period of time. We were together for such a short period of time, but it felt like a decade in my mind. Like, it was so consuming. And I couldn't see, like, I was like, how am I ever going to live a life away from this? So I actually filed for divorce 3 times. And I rescinded the first 2 petitions because he would say, I'm going to flee with the kids and never come back. You'll never see them again. And so I was so scared. I didn't know. I was so scared.
God.
I didn't know. I was 25. 25 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. In the middle, and in Colorado, I had no family nearby. And I kept lying to myself.
Were you letting your family know about all of this? Like, oh, I found out my husband's in a cult. Like, were they clued in?
Not that part. I was so ashamed of that, like, of being so stupid that I like missed that I blamed myself for a lot. But I remember when I told my dad, I remember I flew down to see my dad and his wife, and I told my dad kind of overheard some conversations with my ex. And he sat down with me and he said, I don't know where you learned to like that this is okay, because this is not the example I set for you. And him saying that kind of just planted the seed of like, oh shit, like this is, my dad thinks it's bad. I don't want to disappoint my dad. Like, that's my own patriarchal programming, like my dad's ashamed of this. I got to get out. So then it took me less than a year to finally, well, actually, no, COVID happened. So that was November. And then COVID, I remember, this is a crazy story. So I started studying for the LSAT to go to law school because I was like, that'll be my ticket out. I'll become an attorney.
Shit.
Right. I was like, I'll become a lawyer. And so I was like, let me.
Boss move.
Well, like, sorry. Isn't like so legally, but I'm like, how hard can it be?
Yeah. Well, like it's hard.
Well, like it's hard. Right. So I remember I left.
And the dog.
It makes me want a real hot dog real bad. So I left. I moved out. I stayed with a girlfriend and her 3 kids. And I was like, I remember I was so emaciated. I was breastfeeding my baby. I was gone. I looked like a drug addict. Like I've shared some before and afters. I looked sick. Oh. And I remember I moved out. I did a separation and I was like, okay, I don't want to be a single mom. Like I don't want to do this. So let me go back and bide my time and study for the LSAT so that I can have a ticket out. And that'll be the thing I'll do. And so I did come back. And then I remember I flew to see my family, my mom's side of the family. I had all the money. And I flew to Florida and I sat them down and I said, I'm leaving him. This was in early March of 2020. And I was in Florida and they asked me, they're like, is he abusive? I said, yes. And they said, we'll help you get an attorney and go find one.
Physically abusing you, Emily?
Yeah. He strangled me. He would like if I had my car keys and I was trying to leave, he'd like twist my hand so I couldn't leave. Like I trying to get the keys out of my hand. He would hide my keys. I remember he disconnected the car battery from my car so I couldn't leave him. Oh, like it was I remember he intentionally left me off the lease to our home that we rented because he put his sister on it because they both explained that if I were to ever call the police on him and get a restraining order because I'm not on the lease, I'd have to leave, which is not legally true. But I was so ignorant. I didn't know. Yeah. And I was like, they're really planning. Like, this is a cult mentality. And so I remember, so it was March and I remember flying back home with my kids and I was like, I'm going to tell him. I flew to Salt Lake City because there's no airport near us that's like big enough to, it's just.
How did he let you fly away even?
So this is funny because historically, I would fly with my kids to visit my parents. Like I had my daughter and then I flew home to see my mom. And my mom was like, you should leave him. He's terrible. Because she would hear our conversations. And every time I left, he would threaten to call the police and report me for kidnapping my daughter. Every time. It didn't matter if he drove me to the airport himself, which he did, or he agreed to let me go. Like he would always let me go just to be able to stress me out the whole time and threaten, demanding I come back. It was always like a control thing. So the last time I left anywhere, I drove myself to Salt Lake City so that he couldn't leave me at the airport, which he would always threaten to do. He was like, if you come home, I'm taking the kids and you're going to stay at the airport and figure out your own way home. But that was always like this constant threat. It was like so draining. And I had babies. And I remember I flew to Salt Lake City, flew home, and I drove from Salt Lake to Western Colorado. And I was like, okay, I'm going to tell him I'm done. I'm going to tell him I'm leaving. It was March 10th. And we get home and the world shut down. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? At the time, I had been babysitting for we had these Israeli friends who also knew the immigration angle because dad was a citizen. The mom, he had dual citizenship, Israel and American. And the mom is from Israel and their boys, they're working. So it was like the mom got a green card, but I remember they would be like, something's off about this situation. Like they saw through a lot of the stuff that he had been saying. And I really appreciated that. Like they would come visit me when I moved out that one time. I would go run to their house if I needed help. Like they were so influential and making me not feel crazy. And
it's important.
It was so helpful. Yeah. And I really, it was crazy making. So I remember the schools shut down. My daughter's preschool closed. And so that family, I was watching their son during the day. And because the schools closed, there was no need for me to watch their other son because all the kids were home. So my nannying job shut down because the schools shut down. There was no need. And so I applied for COVID unemployment relief. and I was able to have cash every week. And because he was an immigrant illegally, we never had a joint bank. Well, that's actually no way. We never had a joint bank account because he never let me get one. We never had anything joint. He never gave me money. So I had my own bank account and I had that money deposited in there, and I just saved my money over time. So COVID for me was a huge blessing because I probably would have never left that farm had I not had that emergency cash. He didn't let me get a job. He said if I wanted to get a real job, I would pay for all of the bills and he will stay home with the kids. So,
of course.
Yeah.
And then wouldn't let you have access to the finances that's just a control.
I never even knew how much money he made until our divorce. I had no idea. Yeah. No idea. He didn't tell me anything. And when I would ask, he would say, that's none of your business. You don't need to know. Wives don't need to know. Like, it was very clear to me that we had different definitions of marriage. And I went into it assuming that he would be treating me like a wife. And I mean, I joke now with my husband, I'm like, this is like my first marriage, because that first one really didn't count. It wasn't a marriage. It was like a hostage situation. And so I saved up my money, and I remember I studied for the LSAT all summer, and I was scheduled to take it at the end of August. And, actually, right around the time I was qualified for COVID unemployment relief, our neighbor up the street was murdered by her husband.
Oh my God.
What? In our tiny little town of 400 people. And she was a mom of 3. And this was the first time that I ever fundraised on the internet for anyone. And she really lived up the road. And she left her husband, came back to do something. And they had twin 9-month-olds and a 3-year-old or something. And he shot her and shot himself. And they found the little girl walking down the street. And when the police showed up to the house, they saw the twins crawling in the mom and dad's blood. And I remember hearing this, and I'm like, that could be me if I stay.
Oh my God.
And so I remember I used my platform. I had maybe 5,000 followers. And I was like, hey, this happened in my community. I want to raise money to buy these babies some stuff, like necessities. And I connected with another mom who gathered all of it up and brought it to the parents. But it was like my first real, like, oh shit, I got to get my shit together and get out of this, because I could foresee this happening. And the crazy part, which really sealed the deal, was hearing how the community held a memorial service for the dad. And like hundreds of people showed. Yeah. And I was like, if that's me in this community, they will pretend like it's not a domestic violence situation, the same way they ignored that part for her.
Yeah. Were they also in the cult that you know?
No. No, so the cult aspect, the crazy thing is, I don't think the cult aspect has anything to do with Colorado. This family just happened to end up here. Like, his sisters lived a couple doors down because one of them married an American. And then the other siblings that were here also had legitimate green card marriages. Like, they admitted to marrying people hastily just to get a green card. I didn't realize
they all did it. Yeah.
Right. Like, it just seemed so stupid. But I see now why I was a prime candidate. I was a dumb, vulnerable single mom, estranged from my rich family. All he had to do was pretend to be the hero, and my rich family would help him out. Like, that was his thought process. And so when I did leave, I went to go take this LSAT.
And did he know you were studying for this?
Oh, yeah.
Were you secretly?
Yeah. No, he knew. And I remember he would say, I don't want you to go to law school because you're going to leave me for some lawyer. And I was like, I'm going to become the lawyer, you asshole.
But then doing this to find a lawyer.
I'm not trying to get a new husband, even though I will. But it's still like, And I just remember, so I was studying, and it was like 2 days before I was supposed to take the test. And he brings me in his office, and he goes, he brings me into his office, and he's like, I have to show you something. And he turns his computer screen, and he pulls up naked photographs I'd taken of myself on my phone. And I had not shared with him. And he admitted to hacking my phone. And he accused me of having an affair, because why would I have photos of myself just on my phone?
I mean, like, God forbid you feel yourself and want to take a
God
picture.
forbid I look hot. Yeah. So, yeah. And and I just remember sitting there, and I was like, I know what's happening. You're trying to stop me from taking this test. So I said, okay. And I packed my shit and I left, and I went to go stay at my family's condo down in Durango. And I brought my kids down there, and I remember I had my laptop died, so I had to go get a new laptop, like a cheap one. So my Mac died. It was just a fiasco. And I remember driving back from that trip a week later, and I was like, I don't have a place to go. I can't go home. Where am I going to go? And I remember
Durango. Sorry.
So Durango, if Colorado's a square, Durango's at the bottom left corner.
Okay.
And it's near the New Mexico border, and it's beautiful. And my family had a condo there for a couple of years. And we got married down there. Like I got this ring there I was there a month ago. It's like my happy place, or it was. And I remember, between Durango and where we were living, there's giant mountain paths. If you Google the $1 Million Highway, it's like these cliffs, like these steep drops, and like it's super scary driving. And I remember before we got up that part of the route, I was like, I don't know where I'm going to go once I get on the other side of these mountains, because I don't have a place set up. And I sent out texts to my friends. I said, can anybody help me find an apartment? Like, I don't know where the hell to go. And by the time I got across the mountains, because I was like, not to get woo-woo, but I was like, please, God, help me find a place to live. I don't know where I'm going to go. By the time I got back to self-service over the mountains, my girlfriend had said, hey, your old apartment, your landlord you rented this place before with your ex-husband, it's still available. He'll rent it to you for the same price. The daughter of the landlord was like a mutual friend. And it was just so serendipitous because I hadn't thought to contact them. Like I was embarrassed. And so it all worked out. Like he met me, he took the deposit. He didn't increase rent in the 2 years it had been since I lived there. And I had my 3-bedroom condo back in my safe little town, and like you would never know. And I remember I filed for divorce on my 27th birthday, like 3 days later.
Did you take your LSAT?
I did take my LSAT, yeah.
Did you pass your LSAT?
I mean, you can't really pass it. Like your score is just, it's either shitty or it's great. And my score was mediocre.
Okay.
It's like average. But I ended up it's funny because remember his worst nightmare was like me leaving him for an attorney. This is where it gets funny. So like 2 months later, I start dating. He loses his shit, as men do when you move on. And he starts stalking me, and I get a protective order, which is great. Big deal to get one by yourself without a lawyer. And so within a year, he gets charged with felony stalking. And I was dating an attorney at the time, of course. And he showed up to that guy's office and never introduced him, had no idea how he found out. He's a stalker. And he texts me. He goes, I'm going to reveal all your terrible secrets. Now, this attorney had also received anonymous email.
I knew
that I'm, so 2 months before that, this attorney I'm dating gets an email sent to his business account. And it's all about me, saying I have an OnlyFans, I make porn, I cheated on my ex-husband, like straight from the horse's mouth. And we're like, of course it's him. Who else would care enough to do this? And I'm not like, no one would disparage me like that. So other than him. So we knew he was aware. Anyway, he shows up to his law firm to confront him, and the relationship ended. And so I went to the police. I went to the DA's office, and they charged him with felony stalking. So I drove out to LA actually to Redondo Beach to stay with a girlfriend that Christmas with my kids because my ex was in jail. And I was like, I'm not going to date anyone. I'm done dating. I'm not dating. I'll get stuck in Colorado. I want to move on with my life. I want to actually move back to California is what I said. And I showed my girlfriend, who still lives in California, we were on Hinge, scrolling through Hinge. And I liked Hinge because you could set your location to different places. You don't have to be like in your geographic region. So I set my location to Aspen because I was like, let's just see who's in Aspen. And I was showing my girlfriend, I was like, Allura, look at all these guys. And she was like, they're all ski bums and like van life bros. And I was like, right. So I just clicked out of the app. I didn't delete my profile. I was still apparently on there because within a month, I get a notification stating that I've matched with someone and he wanted to talk to me. And I was like, shit, like I can't, I forgot I didn't delete my profile. Anyway, he was a prosecutor in the district attorney's office where my ex was being prosecuted. And I was like, this is going to be bad. So I went out with him And and he's sitting on my living room sofa. So so this is where it gets funny. So my ex is on felony bond, and of course he won't see our daughter because he's kooky.
As you're in Christmas in Redondo Beach, like your ex is still in jail.
He got out on a bond, cash bond.
Okay.
And so he's out on bond. Money. So he called my mom, actually. So
paid his bail.
She didn't pay for it. She hired him multiple attorneys after the fact.
And paid for his attorneys
to sue me for my kids. I will tell you, I won both of those cases. I have sole custody.
The hell? Are you estranged from your mother?
Yeah, I don't talk to her. Yeah. So actually, this is like the best part of the story because
I'm buckled in.
So I met this prosecutor who was young and hot, and I was like, so what really happened was I matched with him on Hinge, and I was like, oh, he's an attorney, or he said he went to law school, and his profile. Are you familiar with the burned haystack dating method?
No.
You guys should look it up. It's like a whole framework. This professor named Jenny Young, she looks at dating profiles and just encourages women to block men who are who have the same rhetorical framework of like rhetoric with the way that they engage with women on dating apps, like acting like they're the prize, belittling women, being super sexual right out the gate, like all these red flags. And I remember this guy, and this is before I knew about this method, but I remember this guy's dating profile there were no red flags. Like he just seemed like a normal dude. And I was like, oh, that's weird. He's a lawyer. Like you would think he'd be an arrogant asshole. And I remember texting my girlfriend I had just seen in California. I was like, this guy's a lawyer. He looks like a dick or something. Like I was like, he looks like an asshole. And she was like, yeah, he does look like an asshole. And so I was like, I love it. So I was talking to him for a little bit. And then I found out that he worked at the courthouse. I didn't know what he did, whether he was a defense attorney or what. And so I blocked him. And because I just ghosted him. And then I had to
conflict of interest.
I'm like, no fucking way.
Sort of.
And so then so at this point, I'm like, he's an attorney in the courthouse. I don't want to run into him. Well, then I ran into him in person and I was like, he's so hot. I was like, he's so good looking. And he works in the DA's office. I was like,
where did you run into him?
The DA's office.
For your ex-husband.
So I literally got called in one day. They called me from work. I was working at a chiropractic clinic and they're like, hey, he asked for some stupid request. You need to come down and sign an affidavit to respond and we'll file the thing. And so I remember I was standing at the window and I see him walk by and I'm like, I text my girlfriend. I'm like, Allura, he's here. He's so hot in person. Call me. And so she calls me. And at that point, I'm in like talking to these investigators and I'm like, he's around here somewhere. Like, this is crazy. So within 3 days, we were on a date. And I remember the next day it was like Super Bowl Sunday and he went to work. He went into work. He's like, I got to do some work tomorrow. And he really went in to read my case. And he was like, this is crazy. This case is crazy. He was like, your mom's in on it? I'm like, I don't know, dude. So there was no facade. Like it was, all the mystery went out the door. Like he knew exactly what he was getting into. So my ex was out on bond. He had an ankle monitor. It was insane. So we kept dating and eventually we moved in and he was around my kids and like really involved with my kids. And we adopted a dog. I flew back to California and got my puppy from Orange County. In fact, my dog is from Yorba Linda. I flew all the way to California to get this puppy that I wore in a baby carrier.
Kind of puppy?
A German Shepherd. It was insane. It was the craziest thing I ever did. And so we got this dog and then my ex was on trial. And on the last day of trial, and I'm doing like a fundraiser throughout this, like for a woman in crisis near me. And I remember this defense attorney, as I do, at the worst time of my life. I'm like, I need to be on my phone.
So you're Linda to get a dog. I'm doing a nonprofit, doing a fundraiser. She does it right.
I do everything. I'm in the courtroom, like, taking donations. So all of a sudden, this attorney stands up in front of the judge, and she's like, Emily's using this court hearing, this trial to promote her fundraiser. And the judge is like, let her. I don't give a shit. So then at the last day of the trial, this defense attorney stands up and she goes, mind you, we told the district attorney's office we were dating, The elected DA had a meeting about it. Everyone knew it. Like, as far as they were concerned, they all knew and they signed off on it. They just said, maybe don't tell your ex. And
he works in the office. He works on the case.
No, he was a misdemeanor prosecutor. This was a felony case. Yeah. He was he just passed the bar. He was a baby lawyer, like a nobody. Yeah. And so he
How cool would it be if he was on the case though? Like that
that actually happened. There's a woman you might know her, Kimberly Corbin. She has a podcast, a true crime podcast. She's a survivor. Oh. She married the prosecutor who convicted her abuser.
Oh, you should. Hell yeah.
You should look her up. I met her. I met her a month ago. She's awesome. Cool. She's in Colorado. So this attorney stands up and she goes, we just have to make it known on the record that Emily is in a relationship with this guy who works in the district attorney's office. And I'm like, oh no.
Okay, jealous much?
I was like, ew, fucking bitch.
You sound hideous.
It's like, you're a fucking bitch. So I remember the investigators from the DA's office turned around and they're like, you need to tell him that he knows now, like where to find him, what his name is, whatever. And I'm like, how did they even find out? Apparently they saw us somewhere. I'm like, of course, I'm being stalked. Like everyone's stalking me. God. So
is everyone obsessed?
Everyone's obsessed with me. So remember the trial and he was found not guilty, of course. And I remember sitting down with my boyfriend.
Wait, so we went the
stalking. Yeah. They're like, he's just being a good dad.
What the fuck?
Mm-hmm. Threatening you, following you around, going to your new boyfriend's office in violation of your restraining order. Yeah, he's just being a good dad. They totally bought it. The jury of 5 men and 1 woman bought it. Imagine that.
Well, that's just
also, I think the case.
Of course.
But anyway, so we went to a pub that night. My husband's sober now, but we had a cocktail that night. I remember having this like Irish meal, and I was like, "What do we do?" Because he was going to get out of he was not on bond anymore. His parenting time resumed. We had a pending case involving my older daughter, and I was like, "He's going to want to see her. She doesn't want to see him." She was like 5 or 6 at the time. So he said, "You want to get married?" And so we got married the next day.
No way!
We did on his lunch break. Yeah, it was wild. And then he filed to adopt my daughter, the older one, the next week. And so he became her legal dad like 3 months later, did the whole adoption himself. And
to basically like stop the other custody.
It really put a halt in it. Yeah, it completely stopped it.
Holy shit.
Yeah, well, we went to a trial, actually like a year later, and my mom testified on my ex's behalf, and she paid for the attorney and everything. So it was just me and my husband. And at this point, we had a baby. Like, we'd been through some shit together. The adoption had been final and changed her name and everything. And we're at this trial. This is a year later. And this is the best part. My mom had never met him, and I haven't seen my mom in years. And my mom pops up on the screen to testify, and my husband cross-examines her. He'd never met her before, but my mother, very emotionally immature mom, like the Mother Wound Project, all those things resonate. My mother had never been confronted about all the ways that she, hurt me and betrayed me. And she used to threaten to call CPS on me all the time when I was like, you can't talk to my kids. You can't disparage me to my kids. And she's like, I'm going to call CPS on you. Anyway, my husband confronted her on all of this stuff. She was like, I didn't know he was abusive the whole time. I had no idea. And then my husband brought up text messages that showed she knew. Like now when we have like moments where we're like, God, everything sucks, we actually read the transcript from that trial where he cross-examined my mom, and we're like, this is the best thing ever. Like you really mopped the floor with her, and it just makes me appreciate him. I'm like, that's all I ever wanted as a little girl, like with my mom picking on me, was someone to stand up for me. And he did it the day he met us. A former prosecutor cross-examined my mom.
Wow. Like my mouth is wide open this entire interview.
Yeah, what? It was so, in fact, and the funniest part is when I got up on the stand finally, I was like, I know no one intended for this, but this has been more effective than 15 years of therapy. Thank you so much. Like, it really was, though. Like, I was like, this is nothing can compare to that.
It's someone to stand up for you. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And like all of your abusers. And
oh my God. Yeah, it was wild. Like everyone in the same room. And the funniest part is that judge who did that case, the trial, watched my ex get acquitted for domestic violence. And when she ruled on that case, she said he absolutely abused her. And she said he's not allowed to see this child ever again. So it was like vindication.
Wait, so when was the domestic violence trial?
So here's the thing that's crazy is there's criminal court where the bar to get a conviction is beyond, it's like 99%, 100%. There's no doubt in your mind this person committed this crime.
Beyond a reasonable doubt.
Beyond a reasonable doubt. So there's no doubt.
Yeah.
In civil court, family court, it's like 51%. More likely than not, something happened. So she watched him get acquitted in criminal court, where 6 people are like, we don't think beyond a shadow of a doubt or beyond a reasonable doubt he did DV. But she was able to say, more likely than not, he did commit domestic violence. And here's the reasons why. So it was really like, I remember reading that order and I was like, we did it. Like we did the most important thing, despite all the money and all the, like, they had a flashy attorney. It was just like crazy. And we won. It was so
you won in civil court.
In civil court, yeah.
Okay.
And
yeah, so we no. So he wasn't convicted at all.
Oh.
At all. Oh. But in civil court and family court, we won custody. Like that's how they determine, yeah. So which is so crazy because you can't really get justice anywhere, but you'll take it. I can't
believe you didn't win. How could people not think beyond a doubt that?
Because he said he was
message proof, and
they painted me out to be the vindictive ex-wife, and it's an easy sell. I mean, all you have to do is say, look at her, and her new boyfriend's a lawyer. Like I just looked like savvy.
When he's stalking you and trying to take both your children, one of which isn't even his. Like, oh please,
didn't he lie to you in the first place about his green card, like his status, and like manipulated you all along?
None of that is allowed to come in, and that's the thing about the criminal court process is that you are not allowed to bring those things up. None of that comes in. And I remember someone saying to me once, they're like, it's called the criminal justice system, not the victim justice system. So like all of the terrible things he did were not allowed to come in at all. So the jury didn't hear any of that. And like, that's so common though, for like sex abuse cases. Like there will be times where if a jury acquits a guy for sex abuse and it comes out later that there is all this evidence, the jury might say like offhand or, off the record, had I known all that, I would have voted guilty, but I wasn't allowed that information, which is the most frustrating part of criminal court is you're not given the full picture.
Well, that just sucks.
I know.
What the fuck?
I know.
It's grim as hell.
Yeah.
And speaking of the full picture, I'm wondering, like, your mom, why she sided with him and, like, at what point she did that in the journey, or, like, did you guys always have an estranged relationship? Easier for her to jump ship and go to him, or what happened there?
So she was supportive of me leaving him. And she was like, I'll pay for your attorney. I'll help you leave him. And then I left without her financial help. And I think she saw me slipping out of her grasp. Like I wasn't vulnerable anymore. I wasn't weak. Like when I was with him, she would send me money or send me boxes of food for my kids. Like she liked when I was vulnerable and had no way out. But once I was employed and my kids were in school and I had my own place, I wasn't really in a position of like needing her to rescue me. And
so no wonder you ended up with an abusive husband, because you were already so used to that environment with your mom of like, I'm going to be the one that controls the finances and I'm going to be the one. So that makes sense.
Oh yeah. It was so like I really do. I'm like, they're the same person. Like my ex grew up in a religious cult. And granted, my mom, I wasn't raised in one, but there's so many similarities because these narcissistic family, like when there's a narcissist at the middle of this family, they function like a cult. You're not allowed to talk about what happened. You're not allowed to speak up. Like my family knows. I mean, through the court process, I've seen checks that my family sent my ex while he doesn't pay child support. They're sending him thousands and thousands of dollars. And I've confronted my family members and they just ignore me. That side of the family just does not care. And like my dad's been my rock. My dad has been so amazing. Like he's military. He's got integrity. He's just an amazing rock in my life. And he's just like, I'm disappointed. I'm disgusted that your family is so hypocritical. Like, how can you watch your child and say, I'm going to help you get out of this, and then when they get out of it, say, just kidding, I'm going to make it harder for you.
That's wild.
And I won't let my mom
dependent on me anymore, and I can't control you.
Yeah, and I don't let her see my daughter, my older daughter. She really thought that my ex should have custody. It was like the most wild thing, but also like it was so validating because hearing her testify about all these things and lie through her teeth on the stand and then be revealed to be a liar was so like, wow, I waited 30 years to, like, you guys see what I'm talking about now. Like, she's nuts. Like, she lies on the stand. Like, that's crazy. But yeah, it was healing, to be honest. I remember I went into therapy the next week and my therapist was like, you seem lighter. You seem like you have a weight lifted off of you. It's like, yeah.
And to have your partner at the time, I can't even get over the fact that he was like, do you want to get married tomorrow? Let's do it on your lunch break.
I know.
And with that.
It was the best decision we ever made. I know. And I think that's the other thing too, is like, you know, it was such a whirlwind, but it was also it was the smartest decision we could have made because we gave my daughter a father. Like, she had a legal dad. She loves my husband. She derives so much stability and joy in knowing we're married and knowing she has a dad who's not going anywhere. And he really chose her. And it was the craziest thing is when it came time for him to testify at that hearing. I remember the other attorney representing my ex asked my husband, why did you adopt this little girl? And I thought he would say what I think everyone thought he would say, which would be, because Emily asked me to. But he actually said, I was adopted. He said, my mom died and my aunt adopted me and gave me a legacy. He said, no one else would ever be able to do this for Emily's daughter. I'm the only person who was able to step up to this role. And so giving her a legacy is more important than anything else, giving her stability and security. And I was like, damn. And the lawyer goes, nothing further. Like, you can't beat that.
Yeah.
But it was really powerful. And it was like just a full circle moment.
Yeah. And it just was like your husband's character and integrity and what kind of a person that he is. And I'm really glad that you ended up.
It was totally a fate thing. Yeah. Like, what are the chances of, and the other thing is too, his location. So my location was set to Aspen on Hinge. That's 2.5 hours away. So he was driving through the area that day, and for some reason the algorithm linked us. So it was totally a fluke. Like, we should have never met, and we were in the same office building all that time. It was wild.
No, that was meant to be. Like, that was fate. That was one of those little moments.
Yeah.
And then you block him, and then he shows up at the courthouse.
I ghosted him, and I'm like, he's so hot too.
Oh. Yeah. Just for a frame of reference, when was that trial?
The custody one I was just talking about?
Yeah.
That was January of 2024.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. So just a little over a year ago.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I didn't realize like how recent that was. I guess.
We just had a baby right before then, like in August of that year. So we had a 4 or 5. I was pumping milk in the courtroom. Like, it was ridiculous.
Oh my gosh.
Holy shit.
Yeah, we got married and then we got pregnant like 3 months later. So it was just like, it was a lot, but we were so happy. Like, it was just crazy.
Yeah. What a beautiful blended family too, with like a man who actually treats you like you deserve to be.
Well, and the funny thing is that, you know, and I talk to my kids about this because they ask questions. Both of my husbands lost their moms as children. My ex lost his mom when he was 5 or 6. And they didn't ever talk about her again. They weren't allowed to. The dad moved in a new woman. This might just be the cult. They moved in a new woman and told the kids to call her mom. And she died in childbirth, actually. And they raised that baby to think that her mother was someone else. So they really screwed these kids up. And as a contrast, my husband lost his mom too as a child to cancer. She was a single mom. So he was essentially orphaned in middle school. And he was adopted by his aunt, his great aunt, and the family took care of him. And she, they have 2 completely different perspectives on it, and it made them into 2 completely different men. Like, there's, when men go through trauma and they're not allowed to actually grieve and be sad and feel anything, they become monsters. They become total monsters. And then there's men who don't ever let that be an obstacle for themselves, and they use it to grow and be better humans, and they'll talk about it. And I mean, like, we have photos of my mother-in-law all over our house. I mean, I named my son after her. Like, we honor her. We don't pretend she didn't exist. And my middle daughter, really, she points that out. She's like, Daddy, my husband, he talks about his mom, and I've seen him cry. And like, it's such an obvious, when you have these two men that are so different, you can compare them so easily. My kids really pointed out, they're like, yeah, they're so different.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Also, like, shows how much going to therapy or working on yourself and actually processing trauma and talking about it has such a huge impact.
That was on my Hinge profile. I said, I want to know what you've done to address your mother wound, was my bio.
Oh.
And he responded. He was like, I've been doing EMDR for the last however many years.
Wow.
Right.
I do that too.
Yeah. And I was like, oh God. And then I ghosted him.
And then the universe was like, no.
And the universe was like, just kidding. That's your man.
I want to shift gears a little bit. So I know you mentioned at the very beginning of all of this, like, you had like 7,000 or something followers. And I know you have a much bigger platform now. I think you're at like 75 is maybe what I saw on Instagram. And then I know you started your nonprofit organization as well. So I'd love to know a little bit more about like just how you grew your social media along the way, and then what led you to launch the nonprofit.
Well, I told my husband on our first date I'd been fundraising online, because he asked me, he's like, how have you paid for your attorney? And I was like, well, we've been working online. And the first thing he said was, okay, well, we can't do that. You need to have a nonprofit. You can't just be taking donations, because the IRS is going to come for you. So that was like in the back of our mind. I know, he's a lawyer.
Yeah.
He's been like worrying about this stupid stuff. And I'm like, that seems like a lot of paperwork. But he got fired from the DA's office like 6 months after we got married, and he had all this time on his hands. And so he was like, let's build your 501c3. And so we had a board of directors, formulated this nonprofit, and we're like, how are we going to get the most funding? And I was like, well, let me just turn on all these monetization tools on Instagram, and we'll just have the money routed there, and that'll be how it's funded. And so then we started taking donations. And so really the way it works now is we just review applications for help. And mainly the average grant is about $500. So that's like a car note. That's like groceries, an Airbnb, a hotel, emergency, like a car repair breaks or something. So like these grants that help women just get through like a hump, you know what I mean? And so that's what we've been doing for 2 years. And it's grown. It's been so amazing to see how it's grown and evolved, and it's still so small, but also it allows us agency and deciding what we do with the money. Like, we're not obligated to anyone. We don't have to, we don't have to have such an invasive application review process. Like, there are other nonprofits that are like, we won't give you money to you, we'll give it to whoever you owe money to. And I'm like, we're not doing that. Our money, like, there's inherent risk in donating money, but also because the amount is so small, like, we're willing to take on that risk to give women and allow them some autonomy and not dictate, here's where you need to spend the money. Because also, I don't know how they're going to spend it. If they spend it, like, that's up to them. I don't care if, someone's like, I need grocery money, and I give them $500 and they spend some of it on like Starbucks. I don't give a shit. So
right, yeah,
that's your money. Like, and that might be
going into their bank account probably. So it's yeah,
and it might be the first time they've ever had agency in any of that. So because financial abuse is so common, like it's so insidious, and for a lot of these women, myself included, they didn't know that it was financial abuse until someone pointed it out to them. Which is kind of why, like, I always joke, I'm like, my page would be so much bigger if I didn't talk about the uncomfortable shit, like financial abuse, because my community tends to be more conservative, and a lot of conservative families have a lot of financial abuse because a lot of it is based on twisting of biblical scripture. And I actually started revisiting the Bible 14 years after I ever cracked it open, and I was like, I want to understand where these people are getting this. Like, is there biblical justification for the way that these men are micromanaging and abusing their wives? And I'm not finding any yet. So I mean, like, I might, but so far I'm like, I think this is someone warping this. This isn't like, I don't think that the actual biblical what the Bible says justifies this. Like, I think Jesus would be a little disappointed. So I had to look at it through, because I got
flipped the table.
I was going to say, he seemed like he'd be down with a lot of the stuff we do. But he, I was like, Jesus would like me. I think Jesus would like me. But he'd be down with the Moms for Anarchy.
Yeah.
But he, so I was like, but so I got my bachelor's degree. When I left my ex, I went back to school full time, and I got my BA in women's studies. I wanted to understand like women's history and like,
wait, when did you do that?
Right after I left.
You also went back and got your bachelor's degree?
Online. I only had 2 years left, or a year and a half. Like, it wasn't a lot. Because I dropped out.
And then she got the German Shepherd and passed.
Right before that. No, I got it. I was in school right when I left him. Like, I started that semester right when I fired. And so I was working full time. Whatever. And
what, like it's hard?
I know, really. Like,
did the whole thing.
Got a protective order by myself, and I went to school full time. That stupid defense attorney could never.
Defeated my mother.
And I conquered my own. Yeah. I saw this reel yesterday. It was so stupid. This woman was like, she posted this reel and she goes, my biggest flex is not having kids with a fucking loser. And I was like, my biggest flex is that I did twice, and I mopped the floor with my mom's attorneys that she hired my ex-husband twice.
I mean, arguably a bigger flex.
Right. I was like, you could never.
You could never.
Oh, wait. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay. So I casually got
your degree in women's studies.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
that makes. Of course, like, it's gonna make me a radical feminist. Like, duh. That's not usually what happens.
More of your community, like on Instagram, is like in conservative.
Yeah. So most of the women that follow me are more conservative, because I think that, like, I used to post about home birth and like breastfeeding, and that kind of got co-opted during COVID by like more right-wing folks. And so I'm like
trad wives.
Yeah. Sourdough. Yeah. And I was like, I'm still always cared about organic food and home birth. Like, I didn't realize it was a political ideology, but now it's a political ideology. So these women found my page.
My rights.
Right. I also want the right to have a bank account. Like, I'm crazy. But yeah, so it's this weird blend. But I always say, I'm like, if I just posted content that the conservative women wanted to see, I'd have 300, 400,000 followers. But because I'm confronting them with like harsh realities. Yeah, people, I get blocked. I get nasty DMs. I get messages from people saying, I had to block you because you were triggering me, because you were describing my marriage, and now I'm back because you were right.
Oh shit.
All the time.
Wow.
All the time.
Whoa.
Yeah, and it usually, like, it's kind of a red flag if someone, like, all of the sudden blocks me that I used to engage with, and I'm like, something's going on. Like, I'm like, you'll come back.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. In those cases, and kind of like leads into another question I have. I think sometimes people, when they think of like domestic violence or like abuse in relationships and control, they think of like just physical violence. But I know that it's like a much broader umbrella. I don't know if it's all under the DV umbrella, but even just like financial abuse and manipulation. Like, do you find that your content that you're posting are the ones that are really like getting to people and making them block you? Does that tend to be around the like financial control, or all of it? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I tend to share more about the insidious forms of DV, because coercive control, which I think is coercive control, is a pattern of threatening or humiliating behavior that's intended to make someone afraid of leaving the abuser, or otherwise afraid of upsetting them, or not able to exercise things they might otherwise, like rights or resources they might not otherwise be able to have access to. Like, if he says, if you keep pissing me off, I'll disconnect your phone. For a lot of women, myself included, who didn't have a lot of adult years of being self-sufficient, who went from maybe coercively controlling parents, it's easier to just end up in a coercively controlling marriage. So I talk about the insidious forms. Like, obviously, black eyes and bruises is domestic violence, but financial abuse, withholding money, and that's the thing that pisses people off the most, is the money thing, because they're like, why would why would I need to, think of it this way? And why would I need him to tell me everything about every, bank account? Why would I need my own savings account? And I'm like, well, because I got a shit ton of women in my inbox who didn't think they needed a savings account. They told their husbands they didn't want them fucking the secretary, and their husband took all the money out of the account. Now they can't leave. Like, the money thing is so important to me and why I talk about it all the time, because once, and this, like, we call it the cascade of legal abuse. And like, once a woman tells a man, I'm not happy with your behavior and how you're treating me, the first thing he'll do if he's an abuser is take her money away, or take her car, or take her phone. Otherwise, remove her access to things she would otherwise have access to, just for speaking up about the way he treats her. That stuff pisses people off, because it's this programming that they think, well, women are supposed to be meek and mild and not speak up and not speak out of turn. Yeah. And that, I still can't find that in the Bible.
Okay. I'm like, oh, it's time for my husband. Right. Yeah. And it's so nice. I don't have to think about money or worry about it. And like, sometimes that is nice. But then when you're like, hey, I need money to pay for this or that, because especially if you're a full-time homemaker and you're raising your children, like, you don't have, I think it was Abby Eckel, another guest that we interviewed a few episodes ago. I don't know if you follow her on Instagram, but she was talking a lot about, even if you enter a marriage and you decide that one person is going to be like a full-time homemaker, having like some sort of prenup or agreement of like, okay, well, there should still be, you should be contributing to a savings account for me, because God forbid something happens. Like, this is kind of making it difficult in the future to ever have earning potential if something happens. I'm leaving the workforce for however long, like, you're leaving me on my own. Like, it's not, it's recommended in general to have like a prenup because of that, which is something I'd never thought of.
Yeah, there's an attorney in New York. He does divorces, and he actually said today on some interview that his clients who come to him to create a prenup are statistically less likely to get divorced. Like, because if you can have, like, if you're the type of couple that can have a conversation about this, you're probably not going to split up. But the people who will not even touch that subject preemptively are more likely to encounter issues down the road, because you have to have transparency. And like, I joke about, I married my husband 10 seconds after meeting him, because we'd already established all those facts and those values, and like, we were on the same page about everything. But having the savings account, like, I always say, if you're going to be home with your kids and you're going to be out of the workforce for however many years, your husband should be stacking your spousal Roth IRA or another interest-bearing account in your name, or buy you an Airbnb if you're that kind of money, if you're that kind of wealthy. Buy some asset that's going to grow over time and it's in your name. Because the other thing is too, and I always say this, not all men are going to leave you for the secretary, but all of them are going to die. And if your husband in 20 years gets, diagnosed with cancer, and you deplete your savings, but you got a rainy day fund in this Airbnb that's been paid off for years, you can sell that and pay for your, it's having an emergency fund, whether it's for a divorce or it's for an illness or something. Maybe you lose a child and there's so many reasons. It's just being financially ready. And no one explained that to me. I had to learn that the hard way. And so, like, I was raised in a family where we didn't talk about money. We weren't allowed to ask where it came from. And, there was this joke in my family that my grandmother, who was married to the patriarch of the family, the successful business owner, she never knew how much money he made until he died. And I was like, I can relate to that. So it was this like generational disconnect and this encouraging women or discouraging women from knowing what's what with money. And I talk about that a lot. And I think that's really triggering for people who grew up like I did, because like, why would you want to think that your husband's being dishonest, or that he might, leave you for the nanny, even though it happens all the time. So like, it's just, it's just being smart. And if you're looking at it through an emotional lens, okay, you're going to be ill prepared for the future. I'd rather be prepared, knowing what I don't know.
Yeah. As someone who may be listening to our podcast, we have a lot of female listeners, a lot around our age, someone maybe in a relationship where they're realizing there's some like red flags, or maybe this is in a financial abusive relationship, or maybe there's even domestic violence. Like, what kind of advice would you give to a woman who might be listening to this, who might be scared that they're in a situation that they need to get out of?
Lean on your community. This is not the time to, if you feel like you are in a relationship that's hitting all the marks for what coercive control is, and Google it, because even the DOJ's definition of domestic violence includes coercive control. It's not just physical violence. It's like, He's driving erratically on the highway and you're begging him to slow down. He's slamming doors and breaking doors down and threatening to kill you. I mean, if he's ever threatened to kill you, you have already survived domestic violence. If he's ever strangled you, your risk of being killed by him increases like 750%. So, and the other thing is too, like the data doesn't lie. The strongest predictor of future homicide is if he's controlling. It's not if he's ever slapped you before. So men who are controlling, and you know if your husband or your boyfriend's controlling, men who are controlling are more likely to commit homicide than the men who like just, smack their partners. So that like if you're listening to this or you're Googling, the wheel of abuse and those things are feeling a little too close to home, you need to reach out to people around you, lean on your community. You need to make a plan because that type of stuff. And this is the thing, like I always get the question, well, can it be worked out? I don't know. But also like, I'd rather, if you were my daughter and you said, can I work it out with him? He does all these controlling things, but he's never punched me in the face. I would say, well, you can't fix control issues. Therapy is not going to fix that because it stems from him thinking you're inherently worth less than he is. And there's no therapist in the world who's going to convince him otherwise. So it's easier to just replace him with a different guy down the line someday, maybe if you want to, than fix him at who he is. Like, I'd rather my daughter be divorced with kids living in my house than be dead and I have to raise her kids because she stayed with the guy she thought she could fix because, well, he's controlling and he didn't hit me. Like that, him being controlling is a bigger risk to her than anything else.
That's really powerful, Emily. Yeah. I think a lot of people maybe have that wrong, or they have a different kind of perception of what abuse looks like and like the signs to watch out for. But even, just starting at like the baseline of like little controlling things that escalate, I think is super powerful and important for women. I mean, anybody to just know.
It's hard too, especially because a lot of what we consider normal or what our baseline is based on what we saw growing up. And so many of us, especially these women in conservative circles, they see their moms really controlled by these men. And they're not egalitarian relationships that they're growing up with or growing up observing. So what they're normal is not what's healthy.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of narratives around like, no matter what, especially if you have children, make it work. Stay for the kids. It's better to have both parents, like they need a dad, etc. But it's like, I don't think that Jesus would want you to stay with a manipulative, controlling abuser, whether or not he hits you. Like, you're so much better off being with a wonderful, amazing single mother or a single father. It could go both ways, but most likely single mother, or with a new dad who treats your children with so much like love and respect and is a better example. Like, just because someone is the paternal like father doesn't mean that you need to work it out because of that. And I see that happen sometimes in like religious communities or conservative of like, you got to make it work. And it's like, well,
yeah. And
sometimes you can't.
Yeah, sometimes you can't. I remember one of my closest friends, she has 8 children. She's a Baptist, very devout. And I remember when she said to me, and I didn't grow up religious, but it really meant a lot to me when even she was like, he sucks. You need to leave him. I was like, oh, even my most conservative religious friend thinks this is like, I need to get out. And it was so like, it's hard when it's all you know and you're in a community where this is so normal and like all husbands treat their wives like this. And I don't want to sell this idea that there's your future Prince Charmings out there because every guy has got his own baggage. I mean, my husband's in AA. Like everybody has things you might consider to be red flags. So do I. So like getting out of a marriage thinking I'm going to find a husband. I mean, that's how I married the wrong person in the first place. This idea that I so did not want to be a single mom. I rushed into a marriage. That's a bad idea. But knowing that like getting out of that it's better, I think, it's just my opinion, to have 2 homes where at least one of them has the opportunity for peace in the mom's home without the dad around than a toxic home 100% of the time. So even if you end up getting 50-50 custody, which is very normal, and even in DV situations, being safe with mom half of the time and where there's peace and regulated nervous system is better than being in a home 100% of the time where dad is threatening to beat the shit out of mom. Like you're giving your kids a chance to see what is normal and what's possible away from this abusive environment.
Absolutely.
Also in your Instagram bio, you say skincare tips. And can I just say your skin is flawless?
It worked really hard.
And it looks so good. if there is like, what is your most important skincare tip that you would give?
Stop talking to your narcissistic mom. My skin was so bad my whole life. I had cystic acne all over my body. Seriously. And then I cut my mom off and I know my mom watches my shit because she's like, every time, my mother was my first hater. And I know she watches my shit and she's like, her skin is glowing.
The original hater.
She was.
She hates to see your flawless skin.
Wow. Yeah. Anyway, no, my best skincare tip. You need to get rid of the abusers in your life because your skin will glow. So true.
Yeah. It's true for me too. At the very end of all of my shit, I was breaking out in rashes. Like my skin was hideous. I have pictures of it. And then as soon as that was done,
it's so true.
Cleared up. So yeah, it is 100%.
I tend to get rashes or hives when I'm with someone I shouldn't be, actually.
Yes, she does.
I got hives in my marriage, my first marriage, my starter marriage. Yeah. I had hives. I went on all these weird diets, these elimination diets to figure out what was going on. I had hives all the time. My eyes would start watering, gushing water all the time. Like it was so crazy. When I left him, never had it again.
Your body just knows these things. It's crazy. Like your mind hasn't caught up yet, but your body's just screaming at you.
I don't know. Are you familiar with German new medicine?
No.
Google it. It's like a weird train of thought. But the idea is that physical ailments or symptoms are indicative of like emotional issues, and skin rashes are tied to relationship issues.
I haven't had any eczema since I've been dating my current boyfriend, but any other time, especially like after we've had sex or something with like an ex or something, like I'm like, I don't know why I have rashes all over my body.
I know.
And it would happen all the time, and I would be needing to break up with someone and I have eczema in my eyes, or like it's
Isn't that crazy?
Also skin issues and relationships.
Cut your mom off.
Seriously. Emily, thank you so much for coming on. Reminder to follow her at mama_Wilder on Instagram and the Mama Wilder nonprofit on Instagram.
Everything if you want to plug at all, Emily, as
we sell sassy merch on my website, mamawilder.com. Mama-wilder.com. Sassy merch, Moms for Anarchy.
Thank you so much. This was such an amazing interview. Like we're just honored that you came on and told your story.
No, thank you for inviting me. I'm so glad that this worked out. Thank you.